All my life I was agreeable, quiet, the man people thanked while taking more. At 60, I stopped apologizing for breath. Everything went quiet inside, and in that quiet I met a truth that wouldn't let me return to the person I used to be. I'm an old Jewish physician who learned the body first and my own backbone last. Palms remember more than the tongue can justify. The way a chest tightens when a person swallows anger. The way a neck stiffens from carrying other people's plans. The way a polite smile becomes a mask that no longer lets air through. For decades I was called kind, but the translation was convenient. Doors stayed open because I held them, not because anyone invited me inside with respect. That was my bargain. Be useful. Get tolerated. I paid in silence. There came a morning when the mirror wouldn't lie for me. The face looking back had the expression of a man who kept asking himself permission to exist. 60 arrived like a blunt verdict. I had lost my own respect while chasing the approval of crowds that never paused long enough to know my name beyond the service I provided. Nothing dramatic, no scandal, just erosion, grain by grain, of dignity. The worst part wasn't what others did. The worst part was my cooperation. People praised my patience. They applauded my ability to understand both sides. The applause was a lullaby that kept me asleep in a bed I didn't choose. Patience without truth is not a virtue. It's a slow anesthetic. Understanding without boundaries is a discount on your soul. I knew this as a doctor who refuses unnecessary drugs. I forgot it as a man who kept giving himself away in small, polite doses. There is a difference between compassion and self-erasure. Compassion looks you in the eye and stands on 2 feet. Self-erasure looks at the floor and hopes the room won't notice. I used to call my silence peace. It wasn't peace. It was a truce I signed with fear. Fear of being rejected. Fear of being labeled difficult. Fear of losing the thin thread of belonging. Every "it's fine," I whispered, cost me a slice of myself. Add up enough slices, and you are a guest in your own life. A lifetime of listening taught me how to hear the sentence under the sentence. "How are you?" often means, give me the headline, not the truth. I played along, said, "I'm good," and rehearsed my role as the calm, agreeable man. Inside, my pulse argued, this is not a life. This is a waiting room. Most waiting rooms never call your name. They just change the magazines. Respect doesn't disappear with a crash. It leaks. It leaks when you laugh at a joke that cuts you. It leaks when you explain the obvious to someone committed to not seeing it. It leaks when you give second, third, fifth chances to actions that have already told you their future. At some point, dignity becomes a maintenance job you must schedule daily. Miss too many appointments and the structure buckles. I grew up taught to make space at the table. That teaching is beautiful when everyone brings bread. But giving your chair to someone who came for your plate, your fork, and your hunger is not hospitality. It's surrender dressed as politeness. Age didn't make me bitter. It made me accurate. There are smiles that welcome you and smiles that measure you. Learn the difference, and you stop paying gate fees with pieces of your heart. A confession. For years I confused being needed with being loved. The clinic overflowed. The phone never slept. People thanked me, loudly, publicly, yet kept stacking their demands like plates on a single fragile shelf. The shelf was my back. Gratitude without limits is just a soft glove over a firm grip. I kept telling myself, this is what good men do. No, this is what tired men do when they've forgotten the cost of their own breath. The turn began small. I stopped giving answers to questions that were not asked in good faith. I stopped narrating my decisions to people who only wanted leverage. I stopped auditioning for roles I had already outgrown. None of this was dramatic. No raised voice. No grand exit. Change entered like a steady hand on a trembling instrument. Hold, breathe, adjust. Some lines deserve to be carved, not just spoken. Kindness without boundaries becomes permission for harm. If your truth needs my silence to stand, your truth is weak. A yes that costs self-respect is a very expensive lie. Peace that requires me to vanish is not peace, it's disappearance. There's a habit that steals more life than most vices, apologizing for your needs as if they were crimes. Notice the script. Sorry to bother you. Sorry I can't. Sorry I feel this. The word sorry is sacred when you've done wrong. It becomes a chain when you wear it for simply being. Dignity begins where unnecessary apologies end. That's not pride. That's proper ownership of a soul. Another honest line. I used to fear that setting limits would cost me love. The truth hurt, but it freed me. Love survived the limits. Manipulation didn't. Real affection adjusts to your edges and calls them shape. Control hates edges and calls them attitude. Once you see this, you stop bargaining with your worth. You let a day be good even if someone is displeased, because your compass no longer spins to every frown. Many ask for stories about grand victories. I don't have a parade to give you. What I have is cleaner, a doorway. On one side, the life where you keep explaining yourself to people devoted to misunderstanding you. On the other side, the life where your time, speech, and energy answer to your conscience first. I stepped over at 60 not because I became brave overnight, but because staying put became a form of self-betrayal I could no longer perform without nausea. You might wonder what changed the behavior of those around me. Strangely, I didn't ask them to change. I changed the access they had to me. Distance is a statement even when you don't attach a speech to it. Fewer explanations created more clarity than a year of careful essays. The room sensed it. Invitations that were really obligations stopped arriving. Conversations started at a higher altitude or didn't start at all. Silence filtered the water. Here's the cleanest truth I can offer in this opening chapter. Respect comes back when you stop renting yourself out by the hour. The rent is cheap, the damage is not. Charge what your life is worth in boundaries, not in currency. Hold your time like a surgeon holds a scalpel. Steady, necessary, exact. This isn't arrogance, it's hygiene. I promised a confession, not theatrics. So here it is, plain and usable. After 60, I did one thing that changed the way people looked at me, and the way I looked back. It wasn't louder speech, a new title, or a thicker skin. It was a simple act most of us avoid because it threatens every false deal we've made with the world. The next chapter names that act in a single, short sentence. The one I finally said out loud after 60 that turned convenience into respect. Stay with me if you want the exact words and the way to use them without burning your life down. A single syllable did what decades of effort could not. I said, no. Not the sulking version, not the guilty one padded with 10 sentences of apology. A clean, adult no placed on the table like a glass of water. That was the act after 60, not rebellion, alignment. I stopped renting out my time, my attention, my peace, stopped using explanations as a receipt for my existence. The room adjusted. 60 taught me something medical. Dosage matters more than drama. Boundaries work the same way. This is the dosage. Pause first, breathe once, meet the other person's eyes, and deliver the word at normal volume. No frown, no grin, no sermon. Let the silence that follows carry the meaning. It's astonishing how quickly pressure loses its appetite when you feed it limits instead of stories. Not a threat, not a debate, just a decision. No, that won't work for me. No, I'm not available. No, I don't discuss this. The form is simple, the effect is precise. People who came to bargain with your guilt will reach for their old tools: guilt, urgency, charm, flattery, warnings. Tools fail when they cannot find a crack. Explanations create cracks. A clean answer does not. In the clinic, I learned that over-treating makes healthy tissue suffer. Over-explaining does the same to dignity. The longer you defend a boundary, the weaker it sounds to the ears of someone who never intended to honor it. Explanations are coupons. Negotiators clip them. That line saved me from many long afternoons. A boundary is a doorframe. A justification is a revolving door. There is a posture that carries respect without noise. Feet grounded, shoulders soft, voice steady. The message, I am not angry, I am decided. Angry people fight for control. Decided people have it. When I began to live decided, family and colleagues saw a man they could trust even when they didn't get their way. That paradox is real. Saying no made my yes valuable again. Another truth surfaced immediately. Love survives the word. Manipulation doesn't. Real care may be disappointed, but it recalibrates. Control resists, argues, jokes, threatens, or suddenly remembers your past favors. I started asking one question to sort the two. What changes for you if I say yes? Watch the face. Watch the answer. If the answer is about my well-being, there's care. If it's about their convenience, there's appetite. Asking this is not a trick. It's a light switch. 9 thieves used to slip through my doors without knocking. I identified them one by one. Automatic apologies, forced smiles, late-night availability, secrets told to the uninterested, favors traded for belonging, promises made from fear, laughs at jokes that cut, meetings that drain without purpose, and the most expensive habit, explaining feelings to people who only value results. Naming them was step 1. Charging them at the door was step 2. Most left when they saw the fee, my self-respect. Not every no needs the same strength. I practice 3 levels. Level 1 is polite closure. No, thank you. Level 2 is firm boundary. No, that doesn't work for me. Level 3 is protective gate. No, stop, we're done. Use the smallest dose that works. Escalate only if someone pretends not to hear. There's elegance in restraint. There's wisdom in finality. Some days the pressure came dressed as care. I'm just worried about you. Let me decide. I answered with a line that leaves no bruise. Advice isn't love without consent. Concern that respects you will wait at your door. Concern that owns you will reach for your keys. The difference is not subtle once you've felt both. Silence remained my ally. Before the word, I let quiet test my motive. Am I protecting peace or avoiding discomfort? Boundary without honesty becomes another performance. The remedy is simple and strict. 1 breath for truth, 1 word for action. Breath, word, done. No post-game commentary. Dignity grows when you stop narrating your choices to an audience that didn't buy a ticket. The fear of rejection still knocked, but it no longer chaired the meeting. I gave it a single sentence to hold. Rejection of a boundary is confirmation it was needed. That sentence removed the poison from other people's reactions. You can mourn a relationship and keep your edge. Those 2 acts are not enemies. I grieved, I learned, I kept the lock. There will be pushback. Expect it, and you won't be startled by it. Some will test you with delay. We'll circle back until you're tired. End it kindly. We won't be revisiting this. Others will aim for reputation. People will say, reply with a scalpel. People don't run my calendar. A rare few will try memory. After all I've done. Honor without surrender. I appreciate the past. I'm responsible for the present. None of this requires hardness. It requires clarity. I kept my humor, my patience, my blessing for those who could walk beside me without a leash. Respect returned because I returned to myself. The word no wasn't a wall. It was a door that opened back into my own home. Inside that home, my yes began to sound like music instead of emergency sirens. In the next chapter, I'll show how this one syllable becomes a usable system. Scripts for the hardest rooms, the pauses that turn conflict into order, and the exact way I kept relationships intact while refusing to shrink. If the title, After 60, I did this and everyone started respecting me again, sparked something, the mechanics you'll see next will make it real in your hands. Did this resonate with you? Leave a comment below with the first thing you would say to yourself. If you would like quiet support in the following stories, you can click subscribe. We will be there for you when silence is strength. I promised mechanics, not poetry. This is the architecture I use when pressure walks in, dressed as urgency or love. 4 moves, always in this order. Pause, name, boundary, bridge. Simple enough to remember when your pulse climbs, sturdy enough to carry you through the hardest rooms. I built it after 60 because improvising cost me peace. Scripts aren't cages, they are railings on a steep staircase. First comes the pause. 8 slow counts in the mind, 1 steady breath through the nose, shoulders loose. No expression to feed the drama. Silence is not refusal, it's calibration. Most demands collapse when you refuse to race them. Urgency hates oxygen. Starve it. I let the quiet ask me 2 questions. Am I protecting peace or avoiding discomfort? And what will tomorrow's me thank me for? When the answer points to dignity, I proceed. If it points to fear, I sit still and let the fear burn off like morning fog. Next is name. I state in plain language what is actually happening. This is a last-minute request. We are raising our voices. You're asking me to choose speed over thought. Facts, not blame. Naming steals the mask from manipulation. It also protects me from self-deception. Once the scene has a title, I don't overact in the wrong play. Then comes boundary. 1 sentence, normal volume. No, that won't work for me. I'm not discussing this. I won't decide under pressure. No apology tucked inside, no legal brief. A boundary that needs 4 paragraphs is a petition, not a decision. I'm not petitioning for my own dignity anymore. Finally, bridge, if I want to preserve the relationship. The bridge is an option, not a surrender. We can revisit next week with notice. Email the details. I'll read them tomorrow. If the tone stays respectful, I'm willing to continue. A bridge gives a path without giving myself away. Some roads don't deserve a bridge. I choose carefully. Hard rooms test this system. Let me show you the practice. At the family table, they say, "You never help when it matters." Pause. Name. This is blame, not a plan. Boundary. I won't accept accusations. Bridge. Make a clear request with timing, and I'll answer it. In a staff meeting, they say, "We need this tonight. Leadership wants it." Pause. Name. This is a surprise deadline. Boundary. I'm not available for last-minute work. Bridge. If the timeline moves to Friday, I'll deliver. With a grown child, they say, if you cared, you'd fix this for me. Pause. Name. You're tying my love to a task. Boundary. My care isn't measured by solving this. Bridge. I can talk through your options tomorrow afternoon. With a partner, they say, you always shut down. Pause. Name. We're repeating an old pattern. Boundary. I won't continue while labeled. Bridge. If we speak in specifics, one issue at a time, I'm here. With a congregant, patient, or client, they say, just this once, bend the rule. Pause. Name. You're asking me to ignore a boundary. Boundary. I don't do exceptions that risk trust. Bridge. Let's find a solution that stays inside the guardrails. Scripts are not about cleverness, they're about posture. Calm posture says, I am not angry, I am decided. Angry people chase control. Decided people hold it. Once I learned to stand decided, even those who disliked my answer could live with it. Respect grows in rooms where answers are clean. Repair without retreat is a skill I labored for years to learn. When a boundary hurts someone I love, I acknowledge the pain without handing over the keys. Phrases that saved me more than once. I care about you, and my answer stays the same. Your feelings matter. My limit matters too. I'm willing to talk solutions, not guilt. We can pause now and try again tomorrow. That last line preserves the bridge while protecting the edge. Time, like salt, must be used with care. Too little, and everything spoils. Too much, and nothing heals. A ledger helps. Time, energy, guilt, relief. After a conversation, I check the numbers. If my time and energy drop while guilt spikes and relief never comes, I'm paying the wrong bill. Respect is an economy. Either the exchange is fair or it's a leak. I stopped funding leaks. There are signs I look for to know whether to continue or conclude. Signals of safety. The other person slows down with me. They can restate my boundary accurately. They propose alternatives without pushing. Signals of danger. Jokes that minimize. Sudden talk of what people will say. Threats wrapped in worry. Reopening a closed decision with fresh packaging. Safety gets a bridge. Danger gets a door. Keeping love alive while staying whole requires deliberate acts. I show my work after a boundary, not before it. A short text. Thank you for understanding. A small ritual. Tea together the next morning. A walk in silence. A note that names something I appreciate. Care that returns after a firm edge is care that respects reality. If affection only flows when I bend, it isn't affection, it's appetite. Community brings its own weather. Rumors will test whether you belong to your conscience or to the crowd. My standard is plain. I don't sit in chairs that require me to shrink. If a role demands agreeability at the cost of truth, I decline the title and keep my life. Prestige that asks for pieces of your spine is debt you can't repay without losing your gait. People often ask for a strong comeback they can memorize. Strength is less about words than about cadence. Speak like a metronome, not a drum solo. Short sentences, full stops, no rising intonation at the end that sounds like permission to negotiate. The voice carries the message. This is decided, and I am still kind. None of this is theory to me. I built it on tired evenings, shaky hands, and the simple desire to remain someone I respect. The sentence, no, lit the path. The system keeps me on it. I still stumble. I still review the ledger and find places where I leaked. But the trend line bends toward quiet, and quiet is where a person can hear their own name without flinching. This chapter is not a call to hardness, it is an invitation to proportion. Let the size of your yes match your real capacity, and let the size of your no match the value of your peace. I am no longer interested in winning arguments. I am interested in staying whole enough to love the right people well. Boundaries didn't close my heart. They gave it walls strong enough to hold a home. No fireworks here, only the slow architecture of a life that doesn't leak. After 60, I stopped chasing dramatic victories and started building habits that made disrespect impossible to sustain. People call it self-mastery, discipline, mindset. I call it furniture, chairs, tables, shelves inside the day where dignity can sit without wobbling. The so-called revenge everyone asks me about isn't a plot. It's presence. I removed my audience seat from other people's theater, and the performance lost power. Absence speaks fluently when silence knows what it's doing. Drama expects you to argue. It feeds on explanations and counterattacks. Stepping out is not cowardice, it's oxygen. I chose a simpler weapon, access control. Invitations that arrived without respect never reached my door. Requests that cost me peace were returned unsigned. No tantrums, no speeches, just the boring, consistent refusal to participate. Eventually, even the loudest takers learn that the well is closed. That is the smart revenge people whisper about, not a strike, a starvation. You stop supplying attention, and the problem runs out of fuel. Answers became sharper, too. How to answer any question depends on the intention behind it. I trained myself to look for the engine. Curiosity that honors you gets fuel. Curiosity that aims to control gets cut off. 3 filters keep me from overexposing my life. Why do you want to know? How will you use this? What changes for me if I share? These are not tricks. They are boundary lights. A question that can't pass through them doesn't deserve the contents of my heart. There's another tool I keep in my pocket, a clean redirect. Someone presses for details I don't want to give. That's private, ends the chase without turning it into a duel. Someone asks for a decision I don't owe today. I'll let you know if that changes, hangs up the coat gently. Someone tries to turn a yes-no into a debate. I'm not discussing this, seals the door. Short, warm, finished. The beauty of concise language is that it refuses to become a wrestling mat. People often crave a line that exposes another person's motives without starting a fight. Use this one sparingly and calmly. Help me understand how this benefits both of us. If the answer is lopsided, you've named the imbalance without raising your voice. One more for the toolbox. Would you respect the same request if I made it? Manipulation dislikes mirrors. Forgiveness without return sounds cold until you've tried the other option, reopening the door to the same cut and pretending it will heal you. I don't keep grudges. They take up elbow room I need for real work. I keep records. The record says, this dynamic injures me. I forgive the person so I don't carry poison. I do not re-enter the arrangement that produced the injury. A locked door can be an act of honor toward both sides. You don't get to harm me, and I won't tempt you to repeat yourself. Closure isn't cruelty. It's adult hygiene. Strength, despite the legends, is not endurance alone. Endless endurance is what kept me small. Real strength is proportional response. I learned it in medicine, right dose, right interval, right route. In life, the dose is your boundary. The interval is your follow-through. The route is your tone. Boundaries delivered with calm are medicine. Boundaries delivered with rage are fireworks, loud, bright, and gone. I'm too old for smoke. I administer my limits like a professional. Now about longevity, the quiet kind that doesn't make headlines. People ask with a grin, "Why do your people live longer?" I don't carry grand secrets. I carry ordinary ones we stubbornly protect. Rhythm is the first. A day has anchors, morning light, a prayer or sentence of gratitude, bread that isn't rushed, a walk that counts as a meeting with your own breath. Sabbath, not necessarily the religious form for you, but the principle. One day where the phone is a guest, not a king, and work has no keys to your door. Conversation over spectacle, laughter that cleans the air. Study not to impress, but to stay curious. Community that corrects you without shaming you. These aren't magic. They're protective factors, the human version of good posture. Joy becomes medicine when it's honest. Cheap thrills exhaust the heart. Simple rituals fortify it. I drink water before opinions. I eat real food at a table instead of urgent bites over a sink of demands. I walk after heavy conversations to recycle the noise. I keep one task each day that serves legacy over urgency. Write a page, teach a concept, call someone who taught me something. Bodies respond to meaning. Blood pressure obeys calendars more than it obeys slogans. After 60, my calendar and my dictionary went through a renovation. The calendar lost its holes. The dictionary lost its excuses. Blocks of silence appeared where I used to squeeze people I was afraid to disappoint. If you want something practical, try this frame. 3 circles: body, mind, covenant. Body gets sleep, movement, simple food. Mind gets reading, retrieval, say out loud what you learned, and a puzzle that humbles you. Covenant, call it conscience, faith, or values, gets a daily appointment that cannot be rescheduled because someone else forgot to plan. When each circle receives attention, scarcity stops driving. People feel it when scarcity no longer writes your emails. An old joke says, "He kept giving discounts until his life went out of business." I stopped offering promotions on my time. Every deal I once accepted, just this once, only for you, I owe them, had interest rates I could no longer afford. Interest looked like resentment. The ledger taught me, if generosity makes you smaller, it isn't generosity, it's extraction. Proper giving leaves you upright. Community requires edges to function. A boundaryless person becomes a sponge that sours the bucket. I remain available to those who can carry a conversation without turning it into a verdict. I remain unavailable to any circle that asks for my quiet as a ticket at the door. Belonging measured by perpetual agreement is not belonging. It's compliance with snacks. I'd rather share bread with 10 people who argue cleanly than eat banquets with a crowd that smiles on command. Secrets not to tell? Not because they're scandalous, but because they are sacred. Protect 3 vaults: your shame, your hope, your doubt. Shame belongs with a healer, not a gossip. Hope belongs with builders, not spectators. Doubt belongs with the wise, not the loud. Speak openly to those who have proven they can keep your name safe in their mouth. Speak carefully to anyone who treats your life like content. My rule is blunt. If a person enjoys stories more than people, they don't get my stories. Answering gracefully remains an art I practice daily. Here are forms that saved me from hours of friction. That's not for me. I won't be taking that on. I'm staying out of this conversation. We're done for today. Send it in writing. I'll consider it later. These aren't walls. They're weather reports. The climate clears when the forecast is honest. Not all critics are enemies. Some are unpaid editors of your character. I listen for proportion. Does the feedback describe a behavior with examples, or does it attack identity with labels? The first may hurt, but helps. The second masquerades as concern. A surgical question separates them. What would improvement look like specifically? If they can't answer, you're not hearing mentorship. You're hearing appetite for control. Purpose needs a valve to release pressure. I laugh on purpose, at myself, at the day, at the way shoes somehow know to squeak during solemn moments. Humor without cruelty is survival. Gratitude without performance is fuel. Blessing people in silence is my favorite quiet rebellion. It keeps me from carrying bitterness like a pocket knife. Let me spell the long game as plainly as I can. I'm not trying to win at life. I'm trying to remain. Remaining means mornings that start on my side, not on the crowd's schedule. Remaining means work I can explain to my younger self without shame. Remaining means love that can breathe with a no in the room. Remaining means grief honored, not dramatized. Remaining means finishing a day with a backbone and a soft face. Nothing here is flashy. That's the point. Flash burns out. Structure survives. I built a daily house strong enough that storms learned to pass around it. Those who once pressed for the discount discovered there was no counter left to lean on. Some vanished, some adjusted. A precious few grew with me. Respect followed the blueprint. Like health, it doesn't arrive by wishing. It arrives by regimen. Call it maturity, call it age, call it mercy. I see it as permission. Permission to live a life that fits, with edges that protect, and a heart that stays warm. The world remains noisy. I am no monk. But the noise no longer sits in the front row. It waits outside while I make tea, answer slowly, and decide whether today deserves my presence. That's the only revenge worth practicing. A life so well arranged that nothing wild can sit in the driver's seat without an invitation. 2 quiet books run a life. The calendar that decides where breath goes, and the dictionary that decides what words are allowed to escort it. After 60, I rewrote both. No new philosophy, no slogans on the wall. I changed hours and sentences. People noticed. Respect wasn't demanded. It was engineered, the way a surgeon engineers sterility, by controlling what enters the room and for how long. First came the calendar. Open blocks used to be an invitation for other people's emergencies to move in with their shoes on. I gave each day load-bearing beams so nothing collapsed on me without permission. Morning opens with 3 steady fixtures: water, a line of gratitude spoken out loud, and a walk without a screen. 10 minutes is enough to change the chemistry of the next 10 hours. Midday holds a protected hour labeled simply quiet work. No meetings, no chatter, only the task that builds tomorrow. Evenings carry a soft landing, a page of learning, a page of reflection. Lights down earlier than my pride prefers. The weekend has a wall you can hear. One full day where commerce has no key to my door. Rhythm is not romance, it's reliability. Requests needed a gate. I created windows, 2 short periods, one in the morning, one late afternoon, where I read and answer messages. Outside those windows, the phone is a guest, not a king. People learned. Urgency either learned to plan or it stopped knocking. A funny thing about boundaries, they train your circle faster than lectures ever could. A second gate guards favors. I keep office hours for generosity, a weekly slot dedicated to helping beyond my obligations. If a request misses that slot, it rolls to the next week or finds another host. Generosity that destroys structure isn't virtue, it's leakage. The slot keeps my giving clean. I don't resent what I schedule on purpose. Not everything deserves a meeting. A small rule saves me from long furniture-moving sessions disguised as collaboration. If the goal fits in one sentence and the decision fits on one line, we handle it by message. Otherwise, we schedule thoughtfully, or we decline. Too many calendars carry other people's confusion. Mine carries only what I am willing to be responsible for at the end of the day. Ledger review comes at dusk. 4 columns: time, energy, resentment, relief. Get quick numbers from 0 to 10. High time and energy with low resentment is a good trade. Low time with high relief is also a win. Any day scoring high resentment 2 days in a row earns an audit. What boundary failed? Which yes was actually a no wearing makeup. The ledger makes dignity measurable and therefore fixable. Scripts power the schedule. Clarity is a kindness to both sides. Declines sound like this: I won't be taking that on. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for last-minute changes. Deferrals are straightforward. Send the details. I'll review tomorrow during my response window. Let's revisit next week within my generosity hour. Redirects remove you without abandoning the goal. That's better suited for X. They're equipped. Closures keep the door from turning into a revolving one. We're done for today. I won't be discussing this further. The dictionary needed surgery as much as the calendar. I removed phrases that made me small and grafted in language that keeps the spine intact. Old line: sorry to bother. New line: thank you for your time. Old line: I have to. New line: I choose to. Or I won't, when that's the truth. Old line: I'm fine. New line: I'm not available to talk about that right now. When I'm ready, I could use some quiet. Old line: maybe. New line: no. A soft no that is still no beats a soft maybe that breeds resentment. Old line: I'll try. New line: I will by Friday, or I won't be doing this. Old line: it's nothing. New line: it matters to me. Old line: do you mind if to ask for basic needs? New line: I'm taking a break now. A dictionary like this doesn't turn you into stone. It turns you into someone whose words and actions shake hands. 3 silences underpin the whole system. Before speech, a short quiet checks motive. Am I protecting peace or avoiding discomfort? After speech, another quiet lets the answer land without chasing it with justifications. Instead of speech is the third. When the urge to explain rises, I let the calendar carry the decision for me. I won't be able to. That hour is already allocated. A neutral schedule removes drama from refusal. Access must match history. I divided my world into 3 circles. The inner circle earns immediate replies, full context, unguarded truth. The middle circle receives considerate timing, partial context, and specific lanes of access. The outer circle gets cordial boundaries and public information only. Movement between circles is possible, but it rides on demonstrated respect, not charm or urgency. This is not elitism, it's stewardship of a finite life. Courage refuses to wait for mood. I rely on 10-second acts that move me from intention to behavior. 1. Stand up and walk while saying no, because posture steadies tone. 2. Type the clear sentence. Remove every apology that isn't owed. Press send. 3. Put the phone in another room for the first hour of the day. 4. Cancel the meeting that exists only because nobody wanted to write a clear paragraph. 5. Schedule the rest before you feel tired. Tiny acts, large dividends. Not everything needs words. Absence communicates what lectures try and fail to prove. I decline with warmth once. If the push continues, the calendar enforces the message. Closing the door kindly is better than leaving it half open for drafts to steal the heat. Clarity must also govern intake. I treat information like diet. Gossip is sugar, fast, addictive, leaves me worse. Instruction is protein, builds muscle. Reflection is water. Everything works better when it flows. My dictionary excludes statements that label people. It admits descriptions that label behaviors. That single change keeps conversations fixable. You can adjust a behavior. You cannot erase a character verdict spoken into someone's name. Relationships deserve maintenance more than apologies. After a firm boundary, I send a small sign of care, a note of appreciation, a check-in, a practical gesture inside my capacity. Love that survives a no gets stronger. Love that starves without constant yes reveals its diet. The calendar protects love by preventing the kind of resentment that rots it from within. A sample day might help. Sunrise has quiet, water, and movement. Mid-morning holds the hardest task, phone out of reach. Late morning opens a response window. I answer briefly and close the door. Afternoon serves work that supports others but doesn't erase me. Late afternoon offers the second response window. Evening belongs to recovery. A walk, a conversation that adds oxygen, a page learned and a page written. Light down, room dark. If a request arrives outside the gates, it waits. If it cannot wait, it goes to someone whose calendar claims it honestly. My life cannot be a lost and found for every dropped plan. None of this makes me invincible. It makes me consistent. When I fail the system, I say, I overcommitted. I'm resetting. And then I actually reset. When I hurt someone with my brevity, I add kindness without surrendering clarity. When fear of disappointment whispers, I check the ledger and ask tomorrow's self what would make him grateful. He has become a trusted elder in my own life. I try to leave him a clean room. People keep telling me I've grown strong. The truth is less glamorous. I've grown scheduled and specific. That combination looks like strength because it cannot be easily pushed. Respect returned not because I raised my voice, but because my days became a shape others could feel. The calendar carries my boundaries. The dictionary carries my dignity. Together they say, softly and without argument, this life is spoken for. No trumpets, no curtain call. The day I finally understood what living costs, I did not win anything. I stopped spending myself on losses. Acceptance isn't surrender, it's accurate math. After 60, I retired from competitions where the trophy was exhaustion. The scoreboard changed to one question. Did I remain someone I respect? When the answer is yes, the noise outside the door turns into weather. Noticed, prepared for, not obeyed. A lifetime in medicine taught me that bodies heal when conditions are right, not when lectures get longer. Lives obey the same law. The conditions are simple and strict. Truth spoken at a normal volume, time assigned to what matters, doors that close when peace is threatened, and kindness that doesn't buy survival with self-betrayal. None of this looks heroic. That's why it works. Quiet systems outlast loud promises. Looking back, I don't see villains. I see patterns. The outside pressures wore my name like a coat because I kept handing it to them. Ending the handover was the real turn. Boundaries didn't make me hard. They made me honest. Forgiveness stayed, but the key ring got lighter. I can bless someone from a distance and sleep. That's not coldness. That's clean air. People still ask for a final rule, a compass they can keep when the room gets hot. Here is what I use when I feel myself slipping into old shapes. First, I slow down the moment until it stops dragging me. Then I name what is happening with one clean sentence. Next, I deliver the honest answer, even if it disappoints someone I love. Finally, I offer a path that doesn't cost me my spine. If no path exists, I end with a steady, "We're done for today." The day thanks me later. Rituals keep the engine oiled. A line of gratitude at sunrise makes me fluent in proportion. Water before opinions keeps the pulse steady. A walk after hard conversations shakes out what doesn't belong. Sabbath, call it rest if the word fits better, puts my work back in its chair and keeps it from taking my bed. Bread tastes like mercy when it isn't swallowed between alarms. I did not discover miracles, I scheduled them. There's tenderness in the way respect returned. No one bowed. The room simply stopped looking to me for discounts I no longer sell. Friends who value edges came closer. Users drifted to softer targets. Family learned to ask instead of assume. Even my inner critic changed tone. It speaks less like a prosecutor and more like a bookkeeper who wants clean numbers. What changed outside followed what anchored inside. There's a tenderness I owe myself, and I practice it without ceremony. When I fail, I correct, not collapse. When I speak sharp, I add warmth without backtracking on the boundary. When fear visits, I let it sit, but not steer. When grief rises uninvited, I pour tea, open a chair, and let it finish its story. Dignity grows where drama is unnecessary. Old age is often sold as a museum of memories. I prefer a workshop. Tools hang where I can reach them. Pause, name, boundary, bridge, exit, repair. None are shiny. All are used. The calendar holds the blueprint. The dictionary supplies the bolts. Respect isn't something I chase down the street. It lives here now, in the layout. Doors that fit, windows that lock, a table where truth can eat without checking the exits. What about love? It stayed. It changed shape, learned rhythm, stopped asking for my silence as proof. The people who can sit with my no are the ones I feed first. The ones who need my shrinking to feel tall can bless me from far away. That sorting looks ruthless to the untrained eye. It is actually mercy. A heart without edges becomes a spill. A heart with edges becomes a home. The world will still be loud tomorrow. Urgency will still perform. Someone will still want your spine on loan. The difference is that you are no longer a rental. You'll answer slower, choose cleaner, leave rooms with both dignity and kindness intact. Nothing grand, everything essential. Standing here, I don't promise ease, I promise solidity. The ground holds when you stop drilling holes in it to impress passers-by. Breath returns when you stop apologizing for needing it. That was the discovery after 60, that life becomes livable the moment you treat your integrity as non-refundable. Let this land as softly as it was meant. I'm done auditioning. I work, I love, I rest, I tell the truth. Some days I fail and fix. Most days I remain. That is enough. 3 closing lines for the one reading who needed a hand on the shoulder more than a lecture. Now I know. The shape of my life is my responsibility. Now I'm not alone. There are others building quiet houses with strong doors. Now I can be silent and not be afraid. The silence is mine, and it is full. The story doesn't end here. It steadies here. Walk out with your own name, spoken at a normal volume. The rooms you enter will feel it. And the ones that don't, you'll leave them cleaner than you found them, with your respect still in your pocket.